Hey everybody, welcome back. Today I'm going to be jumping on this soapbox for a few minutes. Yay. Not something I usually do on this channel, but I really wanted to throw my input on this conversation that's been going on about Spider-Man 2 in the cost. I know we're a little bit after the fact here, but Spider-Man 2 released at the end of October. Most critics and players said it was a really good game, but a lot of people expressed frustration in how short the game was. And it just didn't give them the bang for the buck that they wanted. So I wanted to weigh in and kind of look at both sides, the developer and the consumer, and toss my opinion in there because I do think I have a few interesting things to say on this topic. First, I have been playing games long enough to remember getting new Super Nintendo games. I remember going out and grabbing a new copy of Donkey Kong Country as a kid. This was a probably $60 or $70 game. I admittedly cannot remember that far back in terms of prices. But it's a 3-hour game, basically. I mean, it could take you a little more your first time through it, but it's a 3-ish hour game, with the only replay value being that you either play it again, or you try to find all the secrets, despite there being really nothing to gain from doing so. And believe me, I've replayed Donkey Kong Country so many times. Actually replayed it a few weeks ago. That was just the era. A lot of games exempting RPGs were short, and even some of the RPGs back then, I would say most of them, did not exceed 50 hours. Though some games did a really good job of creating replay value through multiple routes, through New Game Plus options, stuff like that. Anyway, I know this isn't a great argument for games of today because the industry has changed a lot in 30 years, but my point is really that game prices, despite varying a little bit between developers, have essentially never really reflected game length. You know, when top-tier developers and AAA developers create a game, you're pretty much guaranteed to pay full price for that experience. And you're paying for the experience more so than the game length, I think. But I mean, of course, nowadays games have gotten a little bit longer. And that is a good and bad thing. So I've played some amazing games that were, 100 plus hours, like, Zelda, Breath of the Wild, and Tears of the Kingdom, Witcher 3, Persona 5. Some of those games are just some of the best games I've ever played in my life. But then there's also a lot of games that are really long that I feel like have so much padding that you forget why you're even playing it. Instead of, having a really good time trying to reach goals, trying to experience an amazing story, trying to, really improve your skills in the game. You're just chasing endless icons on a world map and doing subpar like fetch quests and stuff like that. And so for me, I would always rather play an awesome 20 to 30 hour game over something that's like 60 hours with like tons of bloat in it. So I understand. I mean, the games cost a lot of money, and most gamers just are not people that can just afford to buy every single new release in the year. Even if you had time to play them, that might be unrealistic for many people. So it is important to economize purchases. I think one solution to this, and I know it's not perfect, it's not for everybody, but I think sticking to physical games. If you bought Spider-Man 2 physically and you beat it in, say, a few days, you put 15 hours into it, you got what you wanted out of it, you're not going to replay it, well, now you can sell it or trade it. And I know that this isn't some great insight here. Everyone is kind of aware of this. Yeah, you can sell it, trade it, Craigslist, Facebook, niche websites like GamesTZ, a lot of different options. eBay, I guess, if you're okay with their exorbitant selling fees. That's the perk of buying a physical game, is that you won't lose all of your money if you decide, I don't like this game, or this is a game I'm never going to finish and I don't want to keep it, or I beat it and I'm done with it. Let me play something else. If you bought it digitally, well, then you're just kind of screwed, to be honest. You can't get your money back and you technically don't even really own the game. And I'm not against digital. I understand the need to save space and not have a bunch of physical things in your place for a lot of people. Trust me, I've had a pretty nomadic life since graduating. So for me, it's been unrealistic to have like a giant game room. That's just something I can't do with my lifestyle. So I totally understand the advantage of digital. I just think digital is better for either digital-only games or games that are like massively on sale. Like if you're on Black Friday, you're getting Spider-Man 2 for $30 or something. I really want to move on to talk about Nintendo a little bit because I couldn't help but think, Spider-Man 2 dropped the same week as Mario Wonder. And I loved Mario Wonder. But it is a game that is essentially 10 to 15 hours for just a basic playthrough. Just like you go through the game, you're not pursuing every secret, you're not doing a completionist run, you're just having fun. You're probably going to beat it in under 15 hours. And that was totally fine by everybody. No one was like, oh, Mario Wonder is way too short. Why did I spend $60 on this? And I think Nintendo gets some special treatment, and for a couple reasons. I think first, they evade a lot of the backlash because they give you no choice. If you want to play any Mario game, you're stuck on a Nintendo platform. And you just know it's like one of the best platform experiences that's ever going to be made with pretty much any Mario game. So you're stuck paying the price and just enjoying the game however long it is. I think the other factor is that Nintendo games don't go down in price. If you want to buy even like Splatoon 2 now, which I find this example absurd, it's $60. But if you want to buy Mario Odyssey, a game that came out in the very first year of the Switch's life, you got to pay full price. Nintendo infamously does not drop the price of their games, so they kind of retain the value. And I think that's why a lot of people don't feel so frustrated buying Nintendo games for full price, even when it's like a 10, 15 hour experience. And this is something that I think is a problem with a lot of developers. You know, that's one of the reasons I didn't buy Street Fighter 6 right off the bat. I was like, I want this game, but I know I can probably grab it Black Friday for half the price, and I can wait that long. I don't have a problem with that. Other developers, I think, drop their game prices too quickly. I think you can get angry at Nintendo for not dropping them, but I would say, like, you know, I'm already seeing something like Sonic Superstars for $48 for Black Friday. Spider-Man 2, I think, might even have a discount. There's not really an incentive to pay full price for a game when you know just a few months later you can get it in some sale for like 1/3 off or something. This is where I think developers really, the onus falls on them. We can be harsh on consumers, and we should be to some extent, but I think the developers also deserve some flack. I think on the consumer side of things, like I'm like, you're expecting Spider-Man 2 to be some massive like 40, 50 hour epic, but this is Insomniac. You know, they're famous for the Ratchet and Clank series, you know, the first Spider-Man, and none of their games are particularly long. They usually just put a fun New Game Plus mode in there that makes them fun to replay if you want that. But all of their games are pretty short, so I'm not really surprised Spider-Man 2 is not long, and I don't really understand how people were expecting it to be like 2 or 3 times the length that it is. What I will say is the sales are ridiculous, but not only that, it's absurd that there's no return policy on digital games exempting Steam. Steam has a return policy. I think it's based on the number of hours played, though I think there might also be a time limit on that as well. But if you're buying digital games on a console, which Spider-Man 2 was exclusive to PlayStation, then yeah, it's frustrating because you can't get a return on that. Just if you beat the game in a day or you play, you don't like it, it's like, wow, okay, now I just have this game that I'm basically renting and I can't return. I think gamers should absolutely fight for a better policy here. I think maybe, probably not, but maybe, the Spider-Man 2 fiasco of sorts will catalyze that change, but like I said, I don't really think so. In the meantime, I think the only thing you can really do is do your homework before you make purchases, buy physically when you can, and begin campaigning for a return policy on consoles. Otherwise, it's going to be like we just keep tossing our money into big black holes doomed to fade into nothingness when those servers shut down and we can't download those games. Okay, at the end of the day, I do think most people will enjoy Spider-Man 2 and hopefully get their money's worth out of the experience, if not the game length. I think it looks like an awesome game. I can't wait to eventually try both the Spider-Man games. But that said, I do think the return policy should be there for digital games, especially when physical games are kind of being weeded out by developers. So don't let the publisher silently take away physical games, period, but especially not if they're going to basically allow us to rent their games without any sort of return policy. I see both sides of the argument here. My only concern is that really I think developers, I don't want them to see this fiasco and be like, okay, it's better to make a half-baked bloated mess than some like really well-designed 20-hour experience that just optimizes everything. So I want games to remain interesting, fun, unique, free, fun. I probably said a couple of those words 2 or 3 times. But I think where pricing comes in is certainly up for debate. Traditionally, it has not correlated with game length, but that is something that might be maybe a discussion in the future. All right, guys, that's it for me today. I just wanted to discuss this a little bit. I'm starting to forget how to talk, so let's end it here. All right, give me your thoughts. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think that games should correlate with length? Do you think there's a better way other than that, and kind of quality should be the king? And do you think that digital or physical is better, and why? All right, thanks. Catch you next time. Game on.